It sounds impossible, but it's true. There's a watch that sells for barely $200 and can outlast a Rolex in daily use, yet almost nobody buys it. How can a watch that works harder, longer, and is cheaper be ignored while customers chase gold and stainless steel? This watch isn't flashy, but inside, it runs on movements that have been tested for decades, keeping time with less than 5 seconds variation per day, and can survive 10 years of continuous use without major servicing. Owners wear it to work, travel, adventures, and even in harsh climates. Still, it keeps going. Compare that to a Rolex. Yes, it's beautiful, precise, and a symbol of status, but daily wear requires care. Servicing costs, delicate parts, and cautious handling come with the territory. Meanwhile, this budget watch gets tossed and banged around, but keeps ticking, proving that reliability doesn't need a 6-figure price tag. Knowing that such a product exists, we're going to be uncovering this particular watch that defies expectations, why it remains largely ignored, and why it might be the ultimate tool watch for anyone who actually needs a timepiece that lasts. Let's get into the details. The truth about cheap watches. When you first hear the idea of a $200 watch that could outlast a Rolex, it sounds like some wild story, something that doesn't make sense in the real world. Rolex is known everywhere as one of the most famous and respected watch brands. People see it as a sign of success and achievement. It's something you wear when you want others to notice that you have made it. But there's a very practical and very different world of watches out there. Watches that cost a fraction of a Rolex, yet survive everyday life in tough conditions, better than many expensive timepieces. A Rolex watch is built to be strong and long-lasting. The company makes many of its own parts and controls every step of the creation process. They use special steel, known as oyster steel, and sometimes precious metals like gold or platinum. This material choice makes the watches resistant to corrosion and gives a solid feeling when you wear them. Rolex watches are also known to keep good time because of the complex and precise mechanical systems inside. These systems are made to last for decades with regular servicing. The reputation for durability is part of why Rolex watches are so expensive and so admired. But compared to the story of Rolex, there's another category of watches that hardly ever make the headlines. These are affordable, everyday wristwatches, the kinds you see sold for under $200. They're not shiny, they don't have precious metals, and most people wouldn't wear them to a formal event. Yet many of these watches hold a claim that surprises people. They can be practically indestructible in the real world. Take the example of some watches from Casio, a brand that has been making watches since the 1970s. Casio makes pieces that are designed to survive tough treatment. Some models are even built for outdoor use, travel, sports, and adventure. These watches are very affordable, but they are engineered to stand up to rough handling and harsh environments. At the time, it was a huge challenge, but they built the first model after many prototypes and tests, and the result was a watch that felt practically indestructible for everyday use. These brands matter because they changed people's expectations of what a cheap watch could do. When you hold a budget watch with a rugged model, you can see why some people say it outlasts expensive watches in certain ways. The casing and internal structure of these watches are meant to absorb external impacts so that internal components don't break. Even the straps and buttons are built to survive years of misuse. These watches often come with water resistance ratings of up to 200 meters, meaning you don't have to worry about rain, splashes, or even swimming with them on. A Rolex can also be water resistant, and many Rolex models are designed for diving or professional use. The difference is that the Rolex movement inside is a delicate mechanical piece that must be handled with care. If you drop a Rolex hard enough, the movement may suffer damage. And because the internal parts are precision pieces, repairing them often requires a trained watchmaker and expensive service. Of course, the Rolex will still look luxurious, but in a job site or outdoor adventure setting, the cheap watch might be the one that keeps running. People talk about these cheap watches not because they outclass Rolex in every category, but because in practical everyday life, they can be more useful. If you accidentally bump a watch against a wall, accidentally leave it in the rain, or wear it during a rough outdoor activity, some cheaper quartz watches can keep going without worry. The battery-powered mechanism inside many of these watches is simple and reliable. Because there are no complex moving parts like in a mechanical watch, there's less to go wrong, a huge advantage when you're not paying thousands for servicing. Another surprising thing about affordable watches is how accurate they can be for daily life. Many inexpensive quartz watches keep time very well, often more accurately than mechanical movements like those in luxury watches. Quartz watches run on battery power and a quartz crystal oscillator, which keeps very steady time. Some users have reported that these affordable quartz watches measure time as accurately as, or in some cases even more accurately than, more expensive automatic watches. A Rolex will probably keep its value better over time. And yes, a Rolex can be polished and repaired to keep its looks for decades. But the rough truth is this: if you want a watch you can forget about in terms of fear of damage, a hardy budget piece may do the job better. Once you separate the emotional value from the practical performance, you can see why some $200 watches can surprise people with how long they keep ticking in real-world conditions. However, there's something about the Rolex brand that sets it apart: understanding the Rolex value. From the beginning, Rolex was different from many other watchmakers. When most people think of a luxury watch, they think of Rolex. The brand has been around for more than a century and has become a symbol of precision, craftsmanship, and wealth. But what is it about Rolex that gives it such a strong reputation? Why do people value a Rolex so highly, even though it costs thousands of dollars? To understand that, we must look at how Rolex watches are made, the materials used, and the traditions behind each piece. The company was inspired to create new technology and to test watches in ways others had not tried before. One of the very first breakthroughs was the Oyster case, introduced in 1926. This was the first truly waterproof watch case. It was sealed so well that even swimming into the water would not let moisture reach the movement inside. Rolex proved this by having a woman swim across the English Channel wearing the watch, and it kept working afterward. That early test helped show the world that Rolex didn't just promise durability, it delivered it. The way Rolex builds its watches is also a major reason for their reputation. Unlike many brands that buy parts from other companies, Rolex does almost everything in-house. They design and create their own metal alloys, movements, cases, and bracelets. This means every part is carefully controlled for quality from start to finish. The steel used in many Rolex watches is called oyster steel. It comes from the aerospace and chemical industries and is chosen because it stays strong and shiny over decades. Rolex also makes some of its own gold alloys, including Everose Gold. But materials are only one part of the picture. The movements, the tiny mechanical engines that make the hands move, are also built inside Rolex factories. These movements are pieces of art in tiny form. Each movement has hundreds of parts that must work perfectly together. Rolex uses advanced materials like the parachrome hairspring, a small but very important part that controls the accuracy of the watch and resists changes from magnetic fields and temperature. This helps the watch keep correct time even in challenging environments. Rolex doesn't just build watches, the company also tests them. Every watch that leaves a Rolex factory goes through a long list of tests for accuracy, waterproofness, and durability. They earn what Rolex calls superlative chronometer certification, meaning they must meet very strict rules for keeping time and staying reliable. These tests include checks that make sure the watch works well even under pressure, moisture, and movement. Rolex's own laboratories test these watches again after they have already passed official external certification, giving extra assurance that they are strong. Rolex also has a unique way of building trust and durability through after-sale service. The company trains its own watchmakers around the world so that owners can have their watches serviced and repaired when needed. This makes it possible for a Rolex to stay in good working order for many years, often passing from one generation to another. In fact, Rolex promises availability of parts and trained technicians for each watch for at least 35 years after it leaves production, which means that even older models can be fixed and kept working. Another part of Rolex's strength is its consistency. Most brands change their designs every few years to follow fashions. Rolex does not. It changes its designs slowly and carefully. This means that a model like the Submariner, or the Datejust, first introduced many decades ago, still looks recognizable today. This slow evolution builds trust in the design and makes it easier for people to see a Rolex as both timeless and classic. That consistency also helps the watches hold their value over time because they do not go out of style very quickly. Rolex also makes several models that started as tools for professionals. For example, the GMT Master was first created for airline pilots who needed to track multiple time zones during long flights. The Explorer was tied to mountain climbers, and the Submariner was designed for divers. These history-based stories add emotional meaning to the watches and show that at one time they were built for people who needed strong, reliable tools in extreme conditions. Many collectors and owners praise the look and feel of a Rolex. A watch with a sapphire crystal, the clear protective glass on top, will stay looking clear and strong for years. Sapphire is almost as hard as diamond, giving resistance to scratches and cracks. Many Rolex watches also have a little magnifying bubble above the date called the Cyclops lens, making the date easier to read. These features may seem small, but they show how much thought Rolex puts into the design of every part of the watch. In addition to craftsmanship and materials, Rolex's history and culture contribute to its reputation. The company has registered hundreds of patents for innovations, showing a long path of research and development. For more than 100 years, Rolex has been involved in sports, exploration, and cultural events, connecting its watches to major human achievements. That heritage makes owning a Rolex feel like being part of something larger than just a timekeeper on your wrist. People often talk about Rolex as something that is not just useful, but meaningful. A Rolex is often given to celebrate achievements like graduation, career milestones, or other important life events. That cultural value is hard to measure, but it is a big reason why so many people want one, even though the price is high. The stories and traditions attached to Rolex make it much more than just a machine. Now that we've understood what drives the demand for Rolex watches, let's take a look at a cheaper watch that beats the odds. Made for life, the G-Shock Legacy. When people think about a watch that is tough, they often imagine large, heavy, expensive watches. But there is another category of watches that are designed for real-world durability and cost less than a fortune. These watches might look simple, but many of them can survive everyday wear, sport use, and even outdoor adventures. They are not luxury items, but they are strong and reliable in ways that surprise many people. Among these affordable watches, one group that stands out as a leader in durability, functionality, and style is the Casio watches, especially the ones in the G-Shock series. The Casio G-Shock watch is one of the most famous watches in the world for toughness and strength. When people talk about a watch that can take nearly anything life throws at it, dropping, hitting, water, heat, vibration, they often think of the G-Shock first. The G-Shock didn't start as a luxury watch. It started as an idea to build a timepiece that would never break, even when life gets rough. That idea came to life in the early 1980s, and today the G-Shock remains one of Casio's most important watch lines. At the heart of what makes a G-Shock strong is its shock-resistant design. Unlike ordinary watches, where the internal parts are fixed inside the case, the G-Shock uses something called a hollow case structure. This means the watch module, the part that keeps time, is not tightly fixed to the case. Instead, it floats inside, surrounded by protective layers and cushioning material that absorb the force of impacts. If the watch is dropped or hit, the outer layers take most of the shock, helping to protect the delicate internal parts from damage. The designers also gave the G-Shock a raised protective bezel around the watch face. This bezel stands higher than the glass covering the display, so if the watch falls face down, the bezel hits the ground first. This design reduces the chance of the glass cracking or scratching when the watch falls. Many G-Shocks also have button guards, small raised parts around the buttons that prevent the buttons themselves from being pushed in or damaged by impact. All of these features work together to make the watch less likely to fail when it is used in rough situations. In addition to shock resistance, water resistance is a major part of G-Shock durability. Most models in the series are rated for at least 200 meters of water resistance, meaning they can handle water pressure from activities such as swimming, snorkeling, and even non-professional diving. This level of resistance is made possible by strong seals and gaskets that prevent water from entering the case. The watch straps and buckle designs also contribute to keeping water out, while materials like resin and hardened glass do not absorb water or weaken when wet. Casio created the G-Shock with what it calls the Triple 10 concept, a philosophy that every G-Shock watch should survive a 10-meter drop, be water-resistant to 10 bars, or roughly 200 meters, and have a battery life of at least 10 years. While modern models often include even more advanced features, this original concept shows how Casio engineered these watches from the start to be long-lasting and reliable. Some advanced G-Shock variations also use special triple G resist technology, which adds extra protection against not only shock, but also vibration and gravity forces that would otherwise affect timekeeping. The materials used in G-Shock watches are another part of their strength. Many G-Shocks use high-quality resin for the case and band. Resin is a lightweight but tough plastic that absorbs impacts rather than transferring shock directly to the internal parts. Some higher-end models also use carbon fiber or stainless steel reinforcements, which make the watch stronger without adding heavy weight. The watch glass is often made of hardened mineral glass or even sapphire crystal in pricier versions, both of which resist scratches and help protect the display. Beyond physical toughness, G-Shock watches often include technological features that make them practical and reliable in real-world use. Many models have solar power systems, which use light to recharge the battery, reducing the need for frequent battery changes. Others include atomic timekeeping or multi-band radio control, which automatically syncs the watch with official time signals to maintain high accuracy. Some newer G-Shocks offer Bluetooth connectivity, so they can connect with smartphones for time updates and alerts. The G-Shock line has expanded over decades to include many special versions designed for different environments and lifestyles. Some G-Shocks, like the Mudmaster series, include features that prevent mud and dirt from entering the watch, making them ideal for outdoor adventurers working or exploring in rough terrain. Other series, like the Gravity Master, are built for high-intensity situations, such as aviation, where resistance to vibration, impact, and sudden movement is critical. Meanwhile, the Frogman is loved by divers for their strong water resistance and underwater performance. Because of these reliable building blocks, G-Shock watches have earned a reputation for lasting through tough use and adverse conditions. They have been tested in real-life environments and even in extreme promotional events. For example, one early G-Shock model survived being run over by a truck weighing nearly 25 tons, a feat that helped seal its unbreakable legend. This reputation for toughness has made G-Shock watches popular not just with professionals, but with students, athletes, and people who simply appreciate a watch that performs reliably without worry. Even though G-Shocks are known around the world, their durability is not defined by a single feature. It is the combination of purposeful and practical design that makes these watches stand out. Each part works together so the watch can survive everyday wear without failing. These engineering choices are what make G-Shock watches respected as some of the most durable and reliable wristwatches available at an affordable price. But even with all these features, why do buyers still choose a Rolex despite its high cost? Reason why Rolex is a major preference. There is a reason why people around the world think of a Rolex when they want to buy a watch. Rolex is more than just a timepiece. For millions of buyers, it represents something deeper. Even though there are watches that cost far less and work well in tough everyday conditions, many people still choose to save up for a Rolex instead of buying these cheaper but durable alternatives. To understand this, you must look at the psychology of luxury purchases, the unique market position Rolex holds, and how buyers feel when they hold or wear one of these watches. First, brand prestige and image play a huge role in why people buy Rolex. Rolex is one of the most recognized luxury brands in the world. The company has been making watches for over 100 years, and during that time, it has carefully built a reputation not just for quality, but for a certain kind of elite status. When people see a Rolex, they often associate it with success or moments of importance in life. Unlike a basic watch, a Rolex is something people feel proud to wear. Rolex's brand identity has become almost universal, a symbol recognized in many cultures around the world. The history and heritage of Rolex also contribute to its appeal. Founded in 1905, the company played an important role in the development of modern wristwatches, making significant innovations in durability, waterproof cases, and precision timekeeping. Many buyers think not only about what the watch is now, but what it means historically, that the same designs have been worn by explorers, pilots, divers, and leaders. This sense of history makes a Rolex feel like something more than a machine. It feels like a piece of legacy that started long before the buyer was born. Another big factor is scarcity and exclusivity. Rolex intentionally limits how many watches it produces each year. It does not flood the market with products. Instead, it produces a controlled number of watches, which creates a situation where demand often exceeds supply. For many popular models, people often wait for years just to get one from an authorized dealer. They sign up on waiting lists because they want a watch that not everybody can buy easily. This limited availability makes the watch feel exclusive, and that exclusivity raises its perceived value in the minds of buyers. This idea of scarcity also affects the secondary market, the market where used watches are bought and sold. Rolex watches are known to keep a high resale value compared to most other brands. Some models even sell for more than their original retail price on the secondhand market, especially if they are rare or discontinued. This is unusual because most consumer goods lose value once they are sold. Rolex watches, on the other hand, often keep value or appreciate, especially models with strong demand. People who buy a Rolex know that if they ever want to sell it later, there is usually a market for it. Because of the strong resale market, many buyers think of a Rolex not just as a watch, but also as an investment piece. They consider the possibility that the watch could hold or even increase its worth over time. This idea attracts buyers who want both a luxury good and a piece that might retain financial value down the line. This mindset is very different from how many people view inexpensive watches, which are bought primarily for function and are expected to lose value over time. The quality and engineering behind Rolex watches also matters to buyers, even if someone could find another reliable watch for much less money. Rolex makes its own parts, controls its own production, and tests its watches rigorously for precision and performance. Buyers trust these quality standards, and part of the reason they are willing to pay more is because many people believe that a Rolex watch will last for decades or longer. This is backed by the brand's reputation for craftsmanship, allowing owners to pass their watches to future generations. That idea of a watch that could become a family heirloom adds emotional value. Luxury goods like Rolex watches also tap into psychological meanings that go beyond durability and function. People often buy luxury watches at major life moments, like graduations, promotions, anniversaries, or birthdays, and these events create a strong emotional connection to the watch. Rolex watches are often purchased to celebrate achievement, and owning one becomes a symbol of personal success. This emotional layer of meaning is something that inexpensive, practical watches simply cannot offer in the same way, because they are not seen as markers of achievement or status. The way Rolex is sold also influences buyer behavior. Rolex watches are usually sold through authorized dealers, specific stores with trained staff who present the watches in a luxury setting. This setting reinforces the idea that buying a Rolex is not just a purchase, it's a special experience. Some buyers enjoy the whole process, from visiting the showroom to trying on different models, because it adds to the feeling of luxury and importance. Even though this dealer experience is sometimes criticized for long wait lists, it still contributes to the sense that owning a Rolex is something rare. Rolex's marketing and partnerships also reinforce its luxury image. The brand is often associated with prestigious events, such as major sports competitions, high-end cultural events, and sponsorships that reflect elite performance and excellence. This association boosts the brand's image and adds to the perception that Rolex is a symbol of achievement and refined taste, an intangible quality that drives demand in a way that durability cannot. This explains why many buyers are still drawn to it, although practical alternatives exist. However, there are mindsets that determine whether people would buy certain watches or not. The psychology of watch buying. When people think about buying a watch, they are not always thinking only about how strong or useful it is. Watches are very personal items that carry meaning, identity, and emotion. Many people who could buy a budget durable watch like a Casio G-Shock still choose not to, even when those watches are tough, long-lasting, and very affordable. For a better perspective, it helps to look at how people think, how they make decisions, and what values drive their choices when it comes to something as simple and as symbolic as a wristwatch. First, the way people make decisions about purchases is not the same for everyone. Experts in consumer behavior explain that there are different styles of decision-making. Some people are price-sensitive. They focus mostly on cost and want to pay as little as possible. Others are brand conscious. They trust certain names and feel confident that a well-known brand means higher quality and better value overall. This brand-conscious style is especially strong when it comes to luxury items because buyers often see the brand as part of the product's value. For many people, a watch is an expression of who they are. A luxury brand can signal status, taste, and identity in a way that a simple, functional watch does not. Many buyers attach emotional value to the idea of owning something prestigious, even if a cheaper alternative could survive the same daily life conditions. Psychology studies of luxury goods have found that people often buy these items not just for function, but to boost confidence, show success, or satisfy personal goals. This element can outweigh purely practical concerns like durability. In many cases, the brand name itself becomes part of what is being purchased, not just the object. Rolex watches, for example, have a long history and a strong reputation for quality and luxury that began in the early 20th century. Over time, this reputation has become ingrained in many cultures, so a Rolex carries significance beyond its mechanical performance. For buyers influenced by this kind of brand appeal, owning a luxury timepiece is about belonging to a narrative of excellence, history, and status that cheap watches don't offer. A related factor is brand trust and perceived quality. While a G-Shock might be very strong and useful, many people associate the prestige brands with craftsmanship, rare materials, and complex engineering. Although this perception does not always reflect how the watches perform in day-to-day life, it affects how people think about value. Some buyers are willing to pay more because they believe that a luxury watch is inherently higher quality, even if durability tests show cheaper watches can withstand similar conditions. Younger generations also show different patterns in how they choose to buy watches. Some young people look at affordable watches as part of a trend or lifestyle choice, especially when they see these watches used by people they admire on social media or in pop culture. You can find Casio watches featured widely in digital communities, and that visibility helps attract buyers who see the watch as cool, iconic, or part of a cultural look. Because affordable watches are accessible, many young people enjoy wearing them to express style without the pressure of spending a lot of money. But even with that trend, many people still place value on luxury and heritage. Some buyers want an item they can pass down through generations, with the idea that it will gain meaning over time. While inexpensive watches can be reliable, they are generally not seen as heirlooms in the same way that luxury watches can be. This idea of legacy plays a role in purchase decisions because it connects the watch to family history, stories, and personal milestones rather than just its performance. Another point is that some people are fashion-oriented in their watch choices. They consider how a watch looks with certain outfits, in photos, or in social settings. In these minds, appearance and brand connection matter more than ruggedness or function. Even if a watch is practical, it might not be chosen if the buyer feels it does not match the style or status they want to present. There is also a social element in how people perceive cheap versus luxury watches. Some watch buyers believe that prestige watches hold cultural or social capital, SMA, a way of showing membership in a particular group or lifestyle. At the same time, many consumers who do choose affordable watches, like the G-Shock, value practicality, durability, and function. But even with these strong qualities, the broader market for watches is influenced by how culture, money, identity, and social trends shape preferences. Because of this, even when a watch under $200 may work exceptionally well in everyday life, many people still choose other types of watches based on how they feel, want to be seen, or what they want their purchase to represent in the long term. If this breakdown changed how you think about luxury, let us know in the comments. Which other brand model do you think can outlast a Rolex, and why? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button. Subscribe so you never miss our next deep dive into the hidden dynamics of wealth, status, and the brands desperately trying to capture both. Because in luxury, nothing is permanent.